Coming to you from the sunny side of South Bedrock, up here in another lovely bell ringer of a day. Wishing you a happy Juneteenth, as it is a Juneteenth Monday, June 19th, year of our Lord 2022 or 2022. I don't know, however you want to say that. There's really no wrong way to say it, but I guess it's all just a matter of style.
I think you're finding it.
I think I'm working on it. I'll keep working on it. You know, let's find out which way it is. But like I said, I'm still a no wrong answers kind of guy. But yes, we are here. It is the panel has convened again here in June, and a happy Pride Month, and yes, a happy Juneteenth. Having a great time and just enjoying getting all the marrow of irony out of that bone that we're sitting in a country that, in fact, can commemorate Juneteenth as a holiday. And it's illegal to teach what the meaning of the holiday is in at least, 28 states? 29, gotta be some of them, you know? So, okay.
You could teach it, you just have to leave out the slavery part.
Got it. Okay, got it. Right. And then everything was better and everyone was happy. The end.
And everyone was fine.
And everyone was happy. The end.
Remember 4 years ago when Idiocracy was like our best case scenario?
Yeah, really. That's God, good times, huh? Those were the good old days, weren't they? I remember that.
Where did they go?
Oh, so good, so good. But yes, it is the Steam Gentleman here coming to you live and we are still celebrating Pride Month here, talking about our fellows in the LGBTQ plus community, which we found out last week from our guest last time, because the Birdman went and got himself COVID. Wah, wah, wah. That brain fog, that shit is real, people. That's all I'm saying. I had the vid, the brain fog, the vid or the Rona. What are the kids saying these days? Which is more popular?
Don't worry, people. He's still feeling okay. Don't worry.
We're doing our best. I got my IV in. We got people propping me up. You know, it's hey. Thank God for the vaccines. But yes, the LGBTQ plus community, which as our guest, which I'm going to introduce right here again, Mr. Mike Gleason informed us that does get you free parking in Provincetown and free delivery, right? With I think there should be a level above plus, though. I think it should be like LGBTQ plus fabulous, something like that. You need, next level of payment, next level of, of perk in whatever that is.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you, gentlemen. I forgot, Josh, you called yourself the Birdman. Greg and Rashawn, thanks for having me back. I rather appreciate that. LGBTQ plus, that's where you do get that's the premium gay. That's where you get free parking free and ample parking in Provincetown. And you can tell Ellen DeGeneres she's a complete headache right to her face.
Okay.
You are just that back, dear. She's funny. She's like Letterman funny, but like, gosh.
I ain't fucking with Ellen DeGeneres, man. It's not gonna happen.
She had a pretty good run in the early 90s. Her and Paula Poundstone were kind of neck and neck on who was gonna be the funnier one. Earlier 90s.
They were both on the same special, HBO Women of the Night. It was Ellen DeGeneres, Paul Poundstone, Judy Tenuta, and God, I can't remember who the last one was. There was a fourth woman there who I'm forgetting right now.
Did Judy play her accordion?
She did.
Yes.
She did, actually. She came right out.
I remember it now. Yeah.
Played the accordion and went right up to this mic and said, "Hi, pigs." That was her first. Oh! That was how she came. That was how she introduced it. And Paula Poundstone, yeah, it was good. It was a very good showcase of female comedians.
It was a good special. It was. See, I'm glad you said it like that, because this actually moves into our topic for the whole month, and frankly, I would argue where we're going to go. It was a good comedy showcase, and then we will have equality when we just say that and not the differentiations.
Well, fair enough. Moving on, but that actually leads me back into a differentiation here that I'm going to introduce one of my other fine co-hosts, that being the one, the only, the indubitable 3 of clubs, Mr. Rashawn Smith. Tell the people how you doing today, Rashawn.
What it do? How are you? I actually thought you were going to say, when you said the last part, I thought you were going to say Star Child. So thanks. Appreciate it. But good to see you. Welcome back, Josh. Happy that you are amongst the living. Greg, Mike, nice to see you as well. And I'm looking forward to getting on with my esteemed gentlemen. And I meant that however anyone wants to take it.
It is Pride Month, and we do not kink shame, so we're here.
I feel that way 12 months out of the year for these individuals.
And that's why, and that is why we love you. I'd love to tell you it was the brain fog that got me to throw you off on the intro, but nah, I just like keeping you on your toes. So that's really just that's just how I roll. I just want to make sure keep you wondering the entire time.
My toes be twinkling.
But with that, we're gonna swing it on over to the Star Child himself, coming in with them funkadelic vibes, Mr. Gregory DeSense. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm ready to tackle this topic. Feeling pretty good in this fine company.
Excellente. Well, Greg was really on the vanguard here. If I'm gonna use reach way back in my French vocabulary of making sure that we're here and honoring the rainbow colors of Pride this month here in June. So he was definitely on the cusp and the one leading us on. And we talked a little bit about films last time, so we wanted to kind of talk about some of the impressions that our fine brethren and sisters from all sides of every spectrum, right? Whichever spectrum you fall on that day, that hour, that minute, doesn't matter. We're going, and we wanted to reconvene and talk a little bit about television shows today on that wonderful little box that just informed us about the world. And in the case, definitely, Mike, you can speak in for yourself here at the end, but definitely in the case of the three of us, kind of had a great deal of child rearing in us. That it was the babysitter for us from probably age 10, 9, maybe 8 upwards.
I'm sorry. What's this highfalutin word you use? Babysitter? I'm sorry. What does that mean? Because
fair enough.
My babysitter was $5 on the kitchen counter and remembering where the key was.
Well, that's all part of it too. And this was your entertainment, your babysitter, all those things. That wonderful television that kids, if anybody's listening to the show who is not part of Gen X or before, could remember that time when all of it came in on bunny ears and that round UHF, antenna that was there at the back. So,
Mom, he's scaring me.
Oh no. Yeah. All kinds of scary stuff.
You can tell you grew up in the rich neighborhoods with the round antenna.
The round, well, on the back of the TV.
It was like projection TV, then round antenna.
Oh my God! Else. Oh no. No. There was one kid, another Jewish kid in the neighborhood in Wellesley. They had the big screen project, like they had like the original big screen TV. That one with with the 3 colors up front and all that. That was always
those were a pain in the ass.
They were a pain in the butt, but I mean, that's where I watched originally Cannonball Run and all those movies that you're not supposed to watch, but you got to catch a real nice glimpse of Adrienne Barbeau as well.
I was about to say
of her rack. I mean, that's why kids like us snuck over to our friend to watch Cannonball Run. And
you were there for Dom DeLuise, don't lie.
Hey, he had a rack. He had a nice rack too. Let's be honest. I mean, let's be really clear here. I'm on the record, facts saying Dom DeLuise had a nice rack. There's just no two ways about it. Yeah, Mike, was that your experience? Because you're my age, so.
Yeah, Dom DeLuise. He'd have if it was Bear Week in Provincetown, he'd have gotten phone numbers.
I believe it.
Peter DeLuise is his son, and
yeah.
Despite I've been happily married to my husband Brian for 17 years now, but in my heart of hearts, I have still sinned because of Peter DeLuise.
Peter DeLuise, 21 Jump Street alone there.
Yeah, man. We all have that one. Don't worry about it.
All right, but
we all have that one.
I'm just gonna say I love you and a lot of respect that you would tune in to 21 Jump Street, not for Johnny, but for Peter DeLuise. So that's pretty awesome. So
yeah, I mean, Johnny Depp, whether you use the bathroom in his bed or in the regular bathroom, is one of my favorite actors. But Peter DeLuise, I mean, I have no idea what the hell happened in those episodes of 21 Jump Street because I was too busy looking at Peter DeLuise.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Oh,
well,
I don't know.
I'm glad to hear the DeLuise family's doing well in everybody's eyes here. Good for the DeLuise family. Big thumbs up. But as we look at that, and speaking of, well, maybe that was unintentionally part of our subject. Don't know where Peter lies along the spectrum. Don't really care. All good.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter. It's all good. Whatever you're doing on a Saturday night, that's is all fantastic here in the steam tunnels. But let's turn it over. Greg had some leadoff thoughts here to go. He's going to take his 6 minutes today. We're kind of divvying up the time a little bit differently, just to get us going here and just to see what he was thinking about on the television front. Gregory, the Star Child, what you got for us today?
I want to do Orange is the New Black. I'm gonna do my segment on Orange is the New Black. I watched it. I watched a couple of episodes. I watched a couple of seasons when it was first coming out, but then I didn't finish it until about last year. I stopped and then I went back to it because, like most Netflix shows, everybody tells you only need to watch the first couple of seasons. They were the best. Let's put it that way. The first few seasons, without any spoilers, the first few seasons are definitely comedy first, comedy forward, and then drama and social commentary. And then after that, it just turns into drama and then social commentary and then kind of comedy. Like, I don't remember even laughing after season 5. Like, it was just gotten to it. And it's a really heavy show. I mean, it talks about private prisons, prison labor, hiring practices, mental illness, guard brutality, race, class, ICE detention, drugs, cycles of drugs in families, education. Like, it must have been really educational for your average, like, liberal white person. Like, it must have been like mind blowing. It was like, just imagine if Vice had a TV series. It was just tons and tons of social commentary.
Sorry to cut in, but I guarantee most of those people watched Oz, so maybe not.
No, Oz didn't hit like this. The Oz definitely didn't hit like this. The thing about this show, it has some truth bombs, man, that will make you damned uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable and shocking that they actually took the time to point this out. But it's a pretty intense show, and it was a surprisingly honest show. If you don't know, it was written by a woman named Piper Kerman, and she spent a year in prison. And she is bisexual. That brings me around to why I picked this. But she is bisexual, and she just took a very honest look, not just as an inmate, but as a liberal, middle class. No, she's pretty wealthy, wealthy white woman going into prison. And she's very honest about having that experience too. But let's talk about the lesbians, because there's a lot of them. And it's every kind of lesbian. And that's what I really loved about the show. Like, it was not just respectful about how it handled this content, but it was, again, honest and took its time. Like, every season, I think, is like 13 episodes. So it covers a lot. Like, it can really stuff a lot into this series. And so you really get into all of these characters, and it does not try to make a hero out of anyone. It just tells their story. So you have 2 gay women who are kind of the main characters that make it kind of rom-com-y sometimes, but there's the 2 women who are the main characters. And then there is another gay woman who is named Nichols, who is she's just kind of a pervert. She's a sexual predator, actually. She really is. Very aggressive. And then you have a woman her name's Big Boo, and she grew up poorer, and she's a more masculine lesbian. And so between that and a lot more, but between all of them, you really see the different social dynamics that go into the LGBTQIA plus. You really see that it changes the conversation when you start talking about race, when you start talking about, are they pretty, are they femme, are they wealthy, what part of the country did they grow up, and they get into all of this. Like, it's a really meaty show. But the thing that really set the show off was Laverne Cox's character. She plays Sophia Barnett. Sophia Barnett, I think that's her name in the show. But she is absolutely brilliant. She's amazing. She steals the show. Again, the first couple of seasons, it's comedy. Like, she's really in there. She does a fantastic job, not just of being funny, but telling her entire story, her transitioning, her wife supporting her as she transitioned, how it affected her son, how it affected people around her, what she had to do. And an amazing part in the show where she is teaching the other women in the show how their genitals work. Hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious because the show, especially, I don't know, it's kind of strange to laugh because it's happening in a very unfunny place. It's kind of like Hogan's Heroes. It's like you don't feel like you should be laughing because this setting is not fucking funny. It's like Hogan's Heroes, MASH, it's not a funny place, but it is a funny show, and it has these amazingly honest moments. And how Laverne Cox, as a trans woman, is seen by and treated by the rest of the lesbians and treated by the other Black girls that she's supposed to be part of. And how that relationship with the guards and the prisoners becomes complicated because she is a trans woman, and what she has to do in order to keep up her treatments and survive. Like, it hurts. There are some parts of the show that are very, very painful. Now, the show got criticized for being just basically like, torture porn. Like, some really bad things happen to these characters. And it makes it a little bit easier because, again, like, these feel like character studies. Like, the characters, they do, like, how they say the kick the puppy moment. Every sympathetic villain has the moment where they go too far and you can't be on their side anymore. They kick the every character has a kick the puppy moment. Like, every single person in the show has a kick the puppy moment, which, again, we're not putting these people up on pedestals as monuments to the gay community. They are who they are. And you just have to kind of.
They're in prison.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're in prison, but it's not a maximum security prison.
True.
So they're most of them are just kind of, honestly, fuck ups and misfits. Which
is most prisons.
Probably.
Kind
most
of.
prisons,
Like,
you're not going to find.
No, I can't really get into the details of it, but just trust me. This is
I watched the series. I know what you're talking about.
Well, no, but I can't really argue because I don't want to. I'm not doing a spoiler review.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
It.
Yeah, I'm not doing a spoiler review. But most of the people that they focus on, they do. But like I said, they have their kick the puppy moments. So you do. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want a shirt that has the kick the puppy moment on it. I do want that now. I do see that as merch. I do want, he kicked the puppy, she kicked the puppy, whatever, they kicked the puppy. I think we need that in our lives. Yeah. I mean, when you pointed out, I did, in all honesty, and I'll touch a little bit more on it in our perceptions and views. It is, I appreciate that show and being able, like you say, being able to develop a character, not necessarily make someone a hero or heroine in this case, whatever the case may be, but in all honesty, in the idea of prison and in the idea of same-sex relations and everything that comes with it. Yeah, growing up, we have reform school girls, which is, just like a ridiculous, just a ridiculous over the top B movie, right? That's all just playing to every, too many 12-year-old boys in the 80s, salacious fantasies about such things, including brandings and bullshit like that.
Which they also touch on in Orange is the New Black.
Right. Okay. But at least they're trying to take it in its totality and not as just, titillation, if I can use the word, as I say, for the young male audience. It's nice to try and actually go and, look at it as in its totality and as a seriousness of going to prison, of everything you just brought up. I mean, it's nice to see that some writers are out there trying to tackle some of these things and at least give us some insight.
I'm glad you brought up reform school girls specifically, because to the point, I would argue with Greg of how well the series was done and how serious they tried to approach a lot of different topics without going over the top. Reform school girls, let's just jump right to the obvious elephant in the room. The shower scenes, or pretty much any scene in Reform School Girl, it was about basically beautifying even these inmates. Everyone had their makeup done, their hair was done. You know, it was all one body type. It was basically all one looking girl, just over 12 different bodies. Whereas Orange is the New Black, it got to the point where you weren't really excited no matter what, no matter who you're attracted to when it came to shower scenes. Like, you're seeing all body types. You're seeing all different types of people, and it wasn't, you know, people weren't going in there with their makeup on or things like that. It was like, no, this is what someone looking like prison is going to look like when they're in a group shower stall. It ain't going to be pretty, it ain't going to be beautiful, and the mist ain't going to be coming up, and you know, until something bad happens.
They are really real about
they got real
prison life, and that's one of the things. It's just like the little, you know, things we take for granted, but you know, like just like the little petty things that would happen in the shower too, like just the little shitty things they would do to each other in the shower. And then I can't remember why everybody was in their was in their underwear for an episode. I can't remember. I think there was like a breakout of lice or something like that, and everybody had to wear just like their underwear everywhere they went. And so yeah, all the different body types, they were not all sexy and petite. They were not all not jiggling. Like it was real. It was a very real show. So I mean, that's why I picked it, because again, they just showed them for what they are, and you can take them or leave them, because there's a lot of dynamic characters that go through a lot of shit. And yeah, they did get criticized for it being just like torture porn, just like absolutely putting these women through the fucking ringer. It got to the point where it was like, if anything good happens for a character, wait till next episode. Just wait till next episode.
I mean, thankfully I didn't see that, but frankly, every series is going to have torture porn. I mean, it gets to the point where someone's just going to complain. They're going to complain. It doesn't matter.
The thing that had actually worried about me with when I heard about the original release of the book, Orange is the New Black, that's a woman who did go to, she went to like Swarthmore, Smith College or something like that. So she went and wrote a memoir, and it gave me anxiety, because I've had, there have been people I've met in my lifetime who've been incarcerated, and you know, that things like prison cough and PTSD, those are like really, those are real things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even though you might have been paroled or all, you know, those nice things, you know, you get out on probation, and the probation ends, and you try to get, you know, your life will never, you don't get back to, you never get your old life back, is the short version.
Yeah, and I one thing they touched on that, you know, a lot of people don't think about is like the despair, the despair of lifers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, like it's something, because usually if you're a lifer, you did something awful, so on, but so people can care. But wow, yeah, I mean, honestly, think about that. If you just really got a life sentence in prison, you would want to check out too.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
two things I always found interesting about a series like Oz or Orange is the New Black is it does make it personal in a different way. If you do know anyone who actually has been incarcerated for whatever reason, whatever level of guilt, you also know you're still talking about a human being and who has hopes, dreams, you know, fears, desires, all these different things. And a lot of times when you end up talking to any individual who's been incarcerated, regardless of the situation, and the reason why I said, well, it's prison, you realize a lot of us are just one or two decisions away from actually being in prison ourselves. So there's so much that comes into it.
One decision.
Okay. The reason why I said Oz too, and I'm like, yeah, there's probably some intersectionality, is because I watched the entire series. It went past the violence, and if you actually were listening or paying attention to the series itself, similar to Orange is the New Black, what they were actually talking about was the interdimensional society within this prison system that not only changes who you are, but also highlights who you are. And hopefully you keep that humanity as you leave, depending on the situation you're in, which is part of the reason why it's impossible for me to see what's his name, who does insurance commercials now. He was
oh
JJ.
my God, yes.
Yeah, he's always going to be Schillinger to me.
Schillinger.
He's always going to be Schillinger to me.
The fact that he can do those after being the meanest ass Nazi
The
ever.
meanest.
Oh, that's not that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I didn't watch that Halo series, but one of the reasons I didn't watch that is
Orange is the New Black dude.
Yeah. Porn stash is Master Chief. I was like, I can't watch this. Porn stash is Master Chief, really? Like, I can't. No. You just gave me another reason not to fucking watch this.
Yeah, be done.
So with you.
With last week though, we got a real history lesson here with our special guest, with Mike coming in. Mike, you can choose your own nickname too, by the way, if you ever want that. I won't. We can try and come up with one for you, but if you want one for yourself, you let us know.
T-Bone.
Porn stash is open. Apparently, we know that now that he's gone on to be Master Chief. But as that goes, but we got a real wonderful history lesson, and I think we're gonna get a similar one as we go in here. Now, I'm a lot of the reason for the show is that we're all history buffs, but this was but this was the point where we thought we could converse the best, was that the history and pop culture and social commentary and how they all came together. So that's what we all ended up being nice and comfortable with. So Mike, I want to give you a little time to take it away and educate us in the LGBTQ plus fabuloso free parking, whatever it may be,
That's right.
on that, and take it away.
You got it. So to answer your question about earlier, there is LGBT. So the gay premium is LGBTQ plus, about free and ample parking in Provincetown. Now the package above that is GLGBTQ plus glitter edition, and that gets if you are a gay man living in Southern California, that gives you a 10% discount on your Tesla plug-in.
Nice.
If you are, you get to join. You get honored sale prices at every Lowe's and Home Depot and hardware store in the world.
I love that you picked Home Depot. I'm glad it's Home Depot.
Yeah, well, of course.
Oh, totally. And yeah, that's how you that's what LGBTQ plus. Like, yes, that's our premium service.
Nice.
So I'm loving this conversation. As someone who went through as an exchange student, I went through Central Europe in '91, like a week before the Soviet Union collapsed, which is a story for, and why I was there is a story for another time. But I remember being on this bus tour and we stopped at Auschwitz. And so like, I'd always seen the pink triangles because I knew what a pink triangle meant. And then I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And I read Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. I read the Mouse books and those graphic novels, Mouse. I can't watch Hogan's Heroes. Even though the actor who played LeBeau actually survived, like Treblinka or Buchenwald or something. Mm-hmm. There's no way in hell I'm ever watching that show. Never mind Bob Crane's icky personal life. Like, I can't watch that show. That's my little beef there. So LGBT and television has a really interesting relationship. Because I want to talk about movies, we have the Hays Code, which also overlapped with the McCarthy era. During the McCarthy era, there was the Lavender Scare, which is, in addition to being thrown out of the military or the Defense Department or civilian DOD, state, or any of the intelligence agencies like the FBI or the CIA, you could, for being a communist, you could also get fired or dishonorably discharged for being gay, bi or trans. And there are people who went to Korea and got like decorations, or, some guy wanted to go through like the Office of Naval Intelligence, which is ONI, but he couldn't because he was gay, got kicked out instead. You think about what we lost in those terms. So what had happened was commercial television really took off like a shot in the 50s. And there's actually, before the Goldbergs, the 1980s Goldbergs, there was another show previously called The Goldbergs. And it was a middle-class Jewish family living in either the Bronx or Staten Island. in New York. And Mrs. Goldberg was like this kindly, like if you could be like a nicer, kinder Yenta, that'd be her. Television remained, gays were either the killers, like in this, there's an Alfred Hitchcock episode where the transvestite killer. There's an episode of Beretta where there's a male prostitute. And then, so that's as far as you could get from gay life. There's no legitimate living. You were just a hooker or you were closeted. And then Billy Crystal on fictional television played Jody on soap, and that was in the late 70s, and Christian groups flipped out. The predecessor to all reality TV is called The American Family, and it featured this family from California named Loud, and their son Lance waited to come out of the closet during a taping. So they went from being if you watch the Real World, people are very sheepish at first, and then they go to their confession room, and then they start blurting stuff out on the air because it got better ratings and it got him more FaceTime with the cameras. We lost Lance Loud, unfortunately, to HIV complications in the early 2000s, but it was the first time that reality television, though people think it's exploitive, and it can be, really got it out there. And so you went from the bribed gays in the military. You had and actually the CIA finally had a job fair in just in the past 15 years for LGBT friendly, because you can no longer be blackmailed as a gay spy. That's why the CIA and J. Edgar Hoover remained closeted, so that he couldn't get outed and thus couldn't get blackmailed, even though that's we knew. We knew Hoover. Yeah, you vacuumed up all right. Okay. Had to make that joke. So anyways, so we have the token gay characters, like Howard Hessman played a gay guy on Bob Newhart, the Newhart Therapist, not the Newhart Hotel Show. Mm-hmm. And then finally, MTV's Real World finally turned a corner with Pedro Zamora as an HIV positive gay guy. So they got kids in the suburbs to think about that. And then in 2006, they had the first openly trans person on the Real World, and they got the kids to talk about that. That was 2008. And then Cameron and Mitchell finally became the positive gay role models on television. And the actor who plays Mitchell is openly gay. And I think that's leaps and bounds. And that and Queer Eye help. I think a lot of guys talk about being able to be fashion conscious and know how to buy wine without feeling somehow emasculated. And I think Queer Eye did a really good job doing that.
Shout out to Queer Eye at the end. I mean, I do remember what a sensation it was at the time, but I'm glad that it is positive. I've always wondered if it split that difference because of the cringy, of the positivity of, but I think you're right. I think the idea of putting out, these things are okay. Right. That isn't that in the end. Yeah. You don't have to look like a slob.
Mike, I'm so happy that you are joining us and you've been a part of this for a little bit, because you just bring gospel and truth, and you ain't lying about the wine part, because I used to work in a dive bar, and I can tell you when I started working there, let's say early 2000s, I'll tell you exactly what happens to the guy who orders Merlot. It ain't pretty, it ain't nice, and let's just hope that he leaves faster than he came in. However, the last time I went in there, which was probably around like 2014 or whatever, people left and right drinking wine. No one had a problem with it. Everyone was, if anything, the bartender that I knew was kind of happy that they were there, not the idiots getting cocked off with all the other stuff. And they're like, actually, we could use a couple more wine drinkers. You ain't lying, man. They did a lot to move that product.
They do. Awesome. Thanks for your kind words. I'm glad to be here once again. I appreciate the invite back.
I wanted to, I thank you for talking about the lavender scare, which by the way, we're really we're really encouragers of everybody. We really like to encourage our listeners to be curious about all manner of subject matter. So go and read about the lavender scare, please. Go and check it out. I am of the opinion that there's a bit of a rainbow scare going on right now as well. But all right, I won't go too high on the soapbox. But it was interesting though that you pointed out one of them, one of the leaders of the lavender scare being J. Edgar Hoover, who certainly was gay and possibly trans, or just at least liked to, as part of his, he seemed to like women's clothing as part of his fetishes, as part of his kink. and we don't kink shame here. Even I don't know. Hoover's hard not to, but there's just that little bit. It's always the hypocrisy, right? Is really what it boils down to.
Character shame. We don't do anything else. We character
it's not
shame.
the kink, it's the character. Exactly. So you had that, but you also had Roy Cohn as the other leader of this, right? Who, you know, and interesting, you know, I've listened to some things on him. I like a podcast called Behind the Bastards. So they did a nice 2-parter on him. I've seen Citizen Cone when he was played by James Woods. Okay. A little bit always interesting there. You know,
R.I.P.
See that coming.
That, you know, that was the case. And Al Pacino played him in Angels in America. You know, so, you know, clearly a name. Again, if this is totally new to you, please go and search to Google. But he was a highly influential lawyer in New York who outed many, many gay men during this time, who was also, of course, by any conventional wisdom or a modern type of labeling would have been gay. He refused to call himself gay because he was a power top. That was really it. Like that, honestly, he's like, I do it. I do it to them, and you know, I only want them. But as such, he was really just such a dehumanizing son of a bitch. My grandfather always said, you know, he's the type of Jew I'd cross the street to avoid. So it was just the case. But it is that weird twist of irony, right? That the two people I can think of at the head of such a particularly terrible time, when also you couldn't even have the conversations in America. Like it really was just, you know, it was really just this, you know, quote unquote, aberrant behavioral lifestyle choice, whatever people tried to cover it up as, you know, but led by two of your own, two of their own, your own, it's always something that's stuck with me. It's always something that's really, really left such a lasting impression on me that it makes it all the more tragic in my mind that the times didn't have to be this way. They don't have to be this way again. I really cannot discourage it enough. But it was, you know, and I'd even forgotten about Hoover in that conversation. Just in this momentary conversation that we were having just now. But, you know, thank you for bringing him up again too. Because like I said, there's two very historically significant people who were persecuting their own. So, you know, I don't know what your thoughts being part of part of that community. How does that continue to resonate?
A lot of people, I think, are, you know, I don't know if the word hate is out there, but there's a lot of contempt. I know that the conservative LGBT group is called the Log Cabin Republicans. And I've always made jokes about, you know, hey, if you go to their Christmas party, does the gift bag include a closet organizer so you can be comfy while you're in there? And you get an autograph. Do you get an autographed copy of Judas Iscariot's memoir? Do you get, you know, do you, you know, eggs Benedict Arnold? What are we doing here? And legit on their website from 2007, I don't know about, for the first 2 years into the Trump administration, it was like a way to Trump's first lady. I can't think of her first name.
Oh, if
I just
Melania.
God,
Melania. I always want to say Ivanka, which is just Freudian on so many levels. But nevertheless, yes.
Ivana was the first wife. That's right. Like anyways.
Yes.
I like legit. After Michelle Obama being so amazing, I just completely like blanked that she was the first lady was this that deer in the headlights, you know, Melania Trump. But yeah, it was like how to like win like a contest to like have like a nice $300 a plate breakfast or whatever with Melania Trump, and that was like a legit thing with the gay Republicans. And I'm thinking, good God, I like, how could you do that? And people have asked me, why is your wedding ring on your middle finger? And I explained, I figured I was gay during the AIDS crisis. So it's my Reagan, both presidents, Bush, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump. Here's my ring finger right there. Are you sure you can't see it? So that's what 20 years ago this month, Mitt Romney was running for governor. So it was like Mitt Romney and Kerry Healy, and the log cabins passed out, distributed rather, not clunked over, but they distributed during Pride weekend in Boston. These Romney Healy governor, lieutenant governor flyers, like, hope you and your partner do this and express yourself, blah, blah, blah. First Amendment, groovy. Yours truly, Kerry Healy and Mitt Romney. And then while he was governor, he did what's called an amicus, or a friend of the court. He filed an amicus briefing as a private citizen to get the gay marriage ruling reversed in Massachusetts. And then he did that so he could add it to his list of accomplishments when he ran for president in 2012 against Barack Obama, which I thought, and he just got exposed as a genuine two-faced hypocrite. But right now, my original tangent was Barry Goldwater was a Republican. He was in favor of LGBT rights in the 60s. You're free to do stuff in your bedroom. Why would that'd be like the chance for that party to have gotten behind it, but they decided to go religious conservative instead.
It's funny though when you unintentionally, you guys all of you are great, that sometimes you unintentionally give me the segue into when I can blab on for my 6 minutes. So just that idea of duplicity and standards and what is, what I tend to think of is the hierarchy is where I'm going with today. And actually, Mike, you touched on it with the other sitcom that I'll go in briefly with, as you say, Billy Crystal playing an openly gay man, as my favorite these days, George Carlin used to talk about, the Jody on Soap. Doing that, but they did note, I think they did turn him straight at one point. I think like there was like that trope thrown in there at one point. It was like, oh, well, and that was after he tried to kill himself. So they had, I feel like they had to throw in like all of the stuff. Like they let a character actually be out of the closet, but they were never really quite brave enough to bring it into a real relationship and have him have a partner and all that. And of course he was so tortured. And then, but he fell for a woman. So really everything is okay. And that unfortunately is one of my earliest television memories of anyone who was gay on television. So I mean, I'd like to think I got past it, but Lordy, who knows what it did to, to my level of thinking, right? I'm sure it leaves an impression of some kind, right? That again, there's always a problem to be solved. But I wanted to talk about, a series that many of us watched for lots of good hours and titillation, just getting my mileage, getting my 10 cents worth out of that word. Again, in Southern California, we were mentioning that the only Three's Company. Yes, you're all singing the theme song. Those of us who grew up watching that on Saturday nights, they're there. It's going on, but it's three people in Southern California renting a rather spacious apartment. At least I could believe the size of it, having lived there myself. So it wasn't so far out there. And I'm sure even back in the 70s, you did need a couple of roommates I'm sure. We'd look at the rents now and laugh, but you do have to adjust for inflation. I'm sure it was like $500, maybe 400, if that, a month. But the real crux of it all is that Jack, the one man there in the roommate situation, is not married to nor romantically involved with either of the two roommates, right? Chrissy being that was the blonde. I forget all the character names as it went on, and I still remember John Ritter being yeah. And there was a bit of a rotation, and also a understandable question of wage rates.
Suzanne Summer has had the gall to ask for more money.
Oh my God, I know.
The trollop.
Right, the troll after they make her play the dumbest blonde in the history of television, right? After they just feed her lines that made Marilyn Monroe look like a Mensa rep at times, right? Another case, but don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, right? They totally set her up in the dumb blonde role. But the real crux of the show and the ongoing joke, because it is, of course, it's a situational comedy and it's a setting comedy, and the setting is the apartment, is that Jack really cannot be living there with these two women who he's, not in any way romantically attached to or unwedded to. Now, this is 1970s America. Okay. This is the dawn of the pill. This is the dawn of easy drugs. This is the dawn of the one night stand, of it just becoming in the American vernacular. And yet somehow whoever is running the apartment, right? We had Don Knotts and we had the Ropers. I think it started with the Ropers. No, it started with Don. It started with the Ropers.
Ropers.
Started with the Ropers. Yeah.
Then Don Knotts is Mr. Furley.
Yeah.
Mr. Furley, yeah.
Mr. Furley. And because of that,
The
because
best
of this
ascots you've ever seen.
really strange hierarchical sense of propriety in 1970s or early 80s America, Jack has to pretend he's gay to still live in this apartment. And I look back on this with my jaw just dropping, right? That this was the message that we had to send, that somehow, okay, firstly, cohabitation without marriage was so bad. It was such a sin. It was such a terrible idea, mind you, in an age where birth control is totally plentiful. Abortion has just become legal for that time. All of these things that have happened, and all of the of that. No, if this guy's gonna sign a lease, he's gonna have to pretend he's gay. And for whatever reason, also in the same society that as the 70s came to an end and the 80s came in and Reagan came in, we were villainizing and frightened of any kind of sex that was happening between same-sex couples, right? That it was only going to be the most salacious drug-fueled gay orgies going on. So apparently the message, though, that was still sent was that as long as Jack was doing that, all right, as long as he had a parade of men going in and out, that was still going to be better in some way than being, unwed into a straight couple. Which just makes me gobsmacked. There you go. I'm trying to look for any word that I can find here. But just
are you taking the SATs? What is with you in the vernacular today?
I'm gonna blame the COVID. It's all part of the brain fog lifting, and I'm just getting into those deeper. It's like that. It's like the movie Limitless, right? It's just taking me out into those deep waters again. I'm just so excited to be able to think clearly for half a second.
You did say your dad looked like Bradley Cooper.
I thought in his
younger days. Say that
in his younger days. My wife compared me to Carl Urban the other day. I was walking on air. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's not bad. It's a nice compliment.
So how's her COVID reaction?
Yeah, I didn't question it. Maybe it was, of course, it was certainly, we'll blame the COVID. It's not there. No, but truly, I just was left agog that this was the message, that somehow it's all the entire message of sexuality in general was left. I was left so fucked up by that, no matter how you sliced it. It's like, wait, it's only okay if you're straight and you're married and you're living and you're going to have the kids and all that. But is that really a realistic expectation? But then you're telling me it's not okay to be gay, but it'd be better to be gay in that situation than you dare, living next to someone who you're supposed to have straight sex with, and that's okay, but it's not okay if it just, the whole list goes on and on. And I just thought, I hope we've come further, certainly in that. And Mike gave some good examples earlier on about cases where we've moved beyond that. But yeah, I hate to say it, that those were some of my earlier impressions of the community given to me. Thank you. I can't help when you're born. So when you're born in 1974 and growing up from there, that's what you're getting for that's that at that point. At least we had moved beyond that, though. I will say the killer reference, Dressed to Kill, Michael Caine.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, I'll check it in a sec when you guys are talking. But yeah, Michael Caine. It was another transvestite killer idea. Trans. Well, that's what we called it back then. Excuse me, but transgender, killer. Because of course, why would anyone do such a thing unless you want to kill somebody? Oh wow! I left you guys gobsmacked.
I think we're all trying to avoid that.
y'all trying to avoid your SAT words for today?
No, jumping in on each other. I'll just hop in real fast, and it to me it was always that funny part of the late 70s, early 80s were one, it was mind blowing to me as someone who was born in the 80s to find out how conservative the 70s were. Because from my point of view, it was basically all about free love and drugs and decent rock and roll. Good Motown, but still whatever, and disco and all that good shit. But then like it was funny, but it moves into also the way you can really describe a lot of the 80s, which was everything was okay to make fun of except for one very specific small archetype of white straight male. Because even there are parts of white straight males that are made fun of, but the whole idea was like this homosexuality in Three's Company was perceived to be okay so long as we can joke about it. And he's just this hapless, whatever image that he's leaving to the Ropers or Mr. Furley that was so harmless, that was okay for it. And in that regard, to society, it was okay for homosexuality to exist because you can make fun of it. And frankly, it's funny because it actually is a quick segue into what Greg was talking about with Orange is the New Black. For me personally, as a little kid, unfortunately, I fell victim to a lot of what all little kids do by being influenced by what you see on TV. So I, by the early age, didn't necessarily understand that homosexuality wasn't a joke. And I remember a very personal moment in Boston with a man who I didn't know, but I made a little joke. I was like 8, and he turned around. And he's like, "Little boy, do you know how that hurts and hurts people's feelings?" And just the way he spoke to me, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm the worst person in the world, and I'm only 8." And that kind of moved me in the right direction. It wasn't complete. I had a lot to grow, but I always think of that moment, and I could see his face. It was like I could see the hurt, and it killed me. And then also, just luckily having the friends I've had, I didn't see Orange is the New Black in the way that Greg saw it in the personalities, because I knew so many of those individuals, both in my family and both with the friends, that to me, I more respected it as there's so many different personalities out there. And I just saw it like that, not necessarily as a straight or gay thing. It was just like, yeah, you're going to find someone who's going to be butch and straight. You're going to find someone who's going to be dainty and gay. You're going to find someone like So-So. There's a lot of weird people out there. It's like 7 billion people. We're all different.
You said something about the 70s and being liberal. No, they were pretty conservative. And you figure Nixon and Ford were the first 2 presidents of that decade. The thing I completely blanked on was, you said 70s, this reminded me, because Star Trek the motion picture came out in 1979. Star Trek was supposed to be this, oh my gosh, what have they put on color television in 1966 with Uhura, even though she's answering the space phone, was well, she's the receptionist of the space phone. And then later they wrote in Chekhov for the 2nd and 3rd seasons in Sulu. Roughly 20 years after World War II, and we've got a Japanese piloting an advanced space vessel next to a Russian during our Cold War. So it was some real ooga booga out there. But in an irony, it wasn't until the mid 90s, when coming out of the closet was a big event, that they wrote in bisexual and lesbian characters in Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Original Star Trek had the first interracial kiss with Shatner and Nichelle Nichols as Uhura, and they almost got canceled. Of the times they got canceled, the 3rd and final time at the end of the 3rd season, but one of them was the interracial kiss. And then why did it take George Takei? It wasn't until the 2000s he finally came out. Like, he made 6 Star Trek. It was the original principal cast, the original series. He made 6 Star Trek movies, but at no point did and it's implied that his character had a daughter. If you watch Star Trek Generations, there's a cadet Sulu who shows up on the Enterprise after Kirk's Enterprise. Like, why did they wait 30 years for the gay character when they could have just done it the first time in 1966?
Yeah,
totally. And to be clear, what I was saying is, as a kid of the 80s, I was shocked until I got into further history. Like, as I was older and learning about the 70s and finding out about, individuals that made it completely conservative. But what I was saying is more like being born in 1980 and only having reference through sitcoms and normally reruns. It was kind of, like I said, it was Jack Tripper's homosexuality character our homosexual character, excuse me, was played for laughs. Right. So it was like, it was easy to think as, you know, a 4-year-old in 1984, like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we do. But it did it for everything. It did it for Black people. It did it for Asian people. It did it for Latinos. Like, it was across the board. But that's my point about what the 80s a lot you can summarize up as. A lot of it just kind of came down like everything's a joke except for this one very specific white guy. Very specific. But you can talk about older weird white guys like yuppies. Got absolutely trashed in the early 80s. I mean, and they were normally just white people. So everyone got it except for one little specific guy.
People can still get touchy if you joke too much about straight white men. Just
let
you know. We're probably going to catch a little hell for me even saying that. But that segues beautifully into your 6 minutes of fame here. 3 of Clubs. How you want to see what, talk a little more about that time growing up in the 80s, and maybe, if you got any more stories like that one. I like that one though, even though it was tough on you. I have a few moments like that in my past, those moments stand out to you. I just remember, my mom or my sister clapping back at me a couple times when it needed to happen, and saying, you best check your, back your shit up, put it in park. So, that one stood out to me. So what do you got for us during your 6 minutes of fame here?
Well, I wasn't going to talk about it, but if we're going to say anything more personal, I have to give all my praise up to a lot of my development came from one of my best friends. When I was like 12 to, I mean, we're still pretty close now, but like we were really close when we were kids, and a lot of my development came from her and being around her and people that she was hanging out with. So I'll spend more time talking about that. But frankly, I would love to act like I came to this by myself or some natural progression. But frankly, it was the luck of being able to have empathy and being around individuals where if you're willing to just talk to individuals and get to know individuals, then you have a lot of different experiences. So that aside, tabling that for another conversation whenever we have that. The individual I'm going to talk about, the TV show I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to point out that this individual is a religious individual. He is a faithful individual. He is a very strong family man. But I'll get back to him in a second. I'll come back to that individual. So just kind of quick rundown of some of the shows that we talked about that fall into the category of what we're talking about in the celebration of this month. So let's see. Smurfs, we covered that. Yeah, definitely in this category. He-Man, all versions. Yeah, we covered that. Let's see. My Two Dads. Yeah, I'm still on that hill. You can tell me whatever the backstory is. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it actually is. Full House, same thing. You can tell me one of them is uncle and the other one's a brother and the other one's a brother and this one's an uncle. That's fine, but somebody is definitely a husband. Everyone brings up Golden Girls. That's cool. I will raise you your Golden Girls and give you Designing Women. I'll also challenge you with another one. I want to toss this in here, cover this real fast. Who's the Boss? Because Tony definitely either bi or just straight up gay. Angela knew, she was protecting him and doing her best. Mona definitely knew. And then Charles is in charge. The logistics alone, people, just break it down. The only way that was working is because that guy was definitely not straight. So, they're happy to have that going. Also, I want to take a quick second to talk about one of my favorite IPs of all time. I think it is trend setting in so many different ways. I've tried to bring it up a few times on our podcast. I've lobbied a few times for us as a panel to talk about it as an episode. It's been shot down every single time, but I will go to it every single time I get a chance to. In this series, this IP, it has, and at least in the second season, it was only like really 2 seasons sometimes, if you can find a version of 3 seasons, depending on what it's called, because it's a port from Japan. But in the second season, it has one of the heroes of the season. He is one of the strongest fighters in the whole sort of saga. Come to find out that there's this mysterious character who's also the sort of pop culture of this series. This person is responsible for keeping the hope alive in the series, because in this series, it's like a war-torn situation and humanity's on its last stand. Actually, weirdly enough, I'm going to bring that up a few times. But hey, it's me and sci-fi. You knew this was coming. So I'm talking about Robotech season 2. The pivotal character that keeps hope alive is a character by the name of Yellow Dancer. Everyone has a crush on him, mostly men, but Robotech has definitely led the way in trying to push the boundaries. I brought up how they've had an interracial couple. I brought up how one of their leaders was not a white man. So, and we're talking early 80s. So obviously they're trend setting, kind of going also with what Mike just brought up too, which was that this was coming from Japan, that literally 30 plus years from the time this series came out got bombed to hell from the United States. So kind of weird that they're leading the charge and helping Americans live through humanity. However, this individual, Yellow Dancer, who has such a influence, come to find out this woman is actually the dude named Lance, who's also one of the strongest pilots in the Robotech series. So I gave you that. I knew I wasn't going to hit 6 minutes, but I'm just going to move back to the guy I was talking about because he was awesome. He was cool, and he was a pivotal individual. He was a reason, actually. You can blame his father. You can blame his uncle. They are definitely pivotal, but he is the person that gives religion to the guy we come to know and leads humanity back to Earth after the Cylon invasion and Armageddon. William Adama's uncle, Larry. Larry is married to Sam, and Sam is the brother of Joseph Adama, who's William's uncle. I mean, dad. I mean, yeah, dad. So anyway, William Adama from Battlestar Galactica, his uncle, my man from Caprica, which only was one season, but that was the show I was going to end with. Caprica.
Wow.
Muted. Now, to be fair, and I know I lost my time, but I just want to bring up another reason why I brought up Caprica, and I kind of said it earlier. The reason why I brought this up and the reason why I thought it was so cool is because not only was his husband like one of the badass characters of the whole thing, and this guy was just cool just being his husband, but holding it down from that, the way the show did it is the way I argue equality can only be, which was it wasn't about making a point about any other thing. It was literally like, oh yeah, that's Larry, Sam's husband. And then that was it. And like the character just moved into being part of the family. It wasn't about making, I know shows have to make a statement. Believe me, as a black man, statements need to be made until equality happens. But I just appreciated how Caprica was just playing it straightforward, letting it go. You didn't see anything that you saw with a heterosexual couple, you saw with a gay couple. It was just like, look, they're couples. Who gives a shit? This is the story. And these individuals have something to do with it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't know what Josh is doing.
I don't know. Yeah, do you want me to keep talking? I can keep talking. It kind of, if you want a different real world example, it's kind of like when Tony Dungy had to go up against Lovie Smith in the Super Bowl, and someone finally pointed out that, hey, equality is going to happen when we don't bring up the fact that it's 2 black coaches in the Super Bowl. It's just 2 coaches because that's actually who they are.
I mean, that could happen. That could happen. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of like what was the first TV character that I saw as a kid that was gay or trans or bi that like really left an impression on me. Because there were so many that were supposed, that was the thing. It was like everyone loved playing around with
Skeletor.
a lot of the motifs. What's that?
Skeletor.
Right. You know, like everybody liked playing around with the motifs. You know, everybody liked playing around with the air quotes flamboyant mannerisms, but you know, like were they actually gay? And so, like you just pointed out, like there's so many characters that, yeah, you can totally. I mean, professional wrestling alone, I mean, is just one massive homoerotic everything, you know, about it is just, you know, large sweaty men and just trunks slamming each other and just holding each other and just grinding their teeth, not letting the other one escape. But if I'm going to oof, but then you had Ric Flair, who, on the outside, or the Macho Man on the outside, he's got a feather fucking boa. Like, how do you not
Feather hair.
an actually gay, openly gay character that influenced me? I can't think of one on television when I was a kid. I honestly can't. Like I said, there are so many that jumped on the bandwagon and had the tropes and the cliches and mannerisms. Like there was always, the character walking. Like I remember in Cheers, there would randomly be like a gay character walking by, and they would make a one-liner and keep on walking. I remember MASH had an episode where a character, they found out he was going to be gay, and I think Colonel Flag was after him. Remembers Colonel Flag was after him. Actual character? No, I can't think of a character when I was a kid. I just had actual activists and friends and family.
Yeah, I wouldn't say these characters influenced me in a good way or bad way or indifferent. It's just more I'm pointing out that what I thought was cool, especially in Robotech and Caprica, as I said before, is that they just played it straight. It wasn't about anything other than the fact that it was like, look, these are the individuals, which kind of goes to what I was saying about Orange is the New Black. I saw it as just personalities, not necessarily about one sex type or the other, one gender preference or the other. It was just more about personalities and getting to know each character's personalities. That's really what I appreciate about Robotech in the early 80s. By the way, we're talking 85 when it got to American shores, and they were willing to go with this without really trying to push it, but also being very front and center about it. We're not talking about side character either. We're talking about main characters. And bring up, I said Larry and Caprica, but Larry is a side character. I get that. Sam Adama is a pivotal character in Battlestar Galactica. A lot of what he does, if he doesn't do it, we don't have Battlestar Galactica. So if you're a fan of Battlestar Galactica, you appreciate this guy. I'm just making a quip of the fact that, like, you got Larry over here on the side. It's just like, look, man, I'm just trying to be a family man. I want my husband to come home. Like that's all I care. And when you think about it, that's so connecting, because who the hell doesn't feel that way? Who doesn't feel that way about anyone that they love? And that's really the point, right? Like it's about love. That's in your relationship. That's it.
I agree. I agree to a certain level. Like I think that you have to have, who you, no matter what, you're going to have who the person is and what affects them personally and emotionally as part of their character, because not only is it good character development, but it just makes sense to have that if it's going to be about this particular character. I mean, yeah, you can have almost, actually, that's the real problem I see with a lot of these shows. It's like you're just diminishing these people into one-liners and cliches, but not talking about any of the things that actually round them as human beings or affect them socially, and that is another thing that's absolutely universal, whether you're, a woman in the office, or whether you're a guy, an American guy who's going overseas and working in a company. Like you're going to have things that are naturally going to be part of your character that are going to follow you, that it just makes sense for you to have to deal with. And it's like, if you're not throwing in those things, and I'm just supposed to take your word for it that you are whatever it is this character is supposed to be written as, it's like, why'd you mention it?
And what I'm saying is, it can happen when you're straight. It doesn't always have to be about your sexuality.
But when you're straight, but let's be honest, when you're straight, and this is something that, a lot of people, just kind of take for granted. But when you're straight, there are certain things as a heterosexual character you're used to seeing as part of the character development of that character that is heterosexual.
No, actually
like
not. There are stories out there
like
where...
think about it in like Die Hard, like he's going back and forth with his wife.
Fine,
he's talking about his problems with his wife.
But there are stories out there where they don't focus on sexuality at all, because it's just assumed that they're straight. That's my point. Like when you get past the assumption,
like their straightness is part of their character and part of the story, and no one shies away from that.
or they don't need to actually sit there and try to point it out to people. That's all I'm pointing out. There are stories where they don't actually have, they can say whatever the person's personality is, characteristics, backs around stories, all that, and they never bring up anything that has to do with sexuality. That's what I'm saying.
They do though.
Not
It's
every
that's
story.
Like saying that's
All
like
right.
saying
You're right.
like,
Every story is like Die Hard. You're right. Good call.
that's like, well, actually, Die Hard gets credited for being the perfect 3-part plot. It really does. Well, go ahead. I see Mike wants to jump in. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just want to say thanks very much for the invitation again. And that is, those are all very valid points about, we don't actually see Bruce Willis's, I forgot the guy's name, the cowboy from the Die Hard movies. We don't actually meet the wife. And we don't meet Maris, which is Frasier's brother's wife on Frasier. And that's a really important point, that these could have been life partners the entire time, or could have been imaginary people that they were just made up, or they changed the pronouns of their lovers or or partners or what have you. So that's I think it's a very valid point. And that's something American television would be afraid to touch. The first LGBT character, I mean, they never said Doctor Who was gay, but he did have a granddaughter in the earlier episodes, but only British TV would be okay with an asexual time traveler with all these women companions and nothing goes on with them. It went unquestioned. They had to, in the American script for Doctor Who in the 1990s, they made him kiss the companion, which was a taboo just because the Doctor was not Captain Kirk. He just had a professional working relationship, this Watson and Sherlock Holmes kind of relationship. And that's all they ever had.
Yeah, because I mean, this is probably, getting on something, but yeah, why don't we get your opinion on this? Because that was something that, you had this period, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, they would say, oh, well, this character is gay. This character is coming out, but then they would actually have the character there. And maybe this is my own thing, but I just think it's odd. But they would have the character there, but the character wouldn't be, with their companion. They wouldn't be with another woman, or if they were, they wouldn't say hug or kiss when they first saw each other, something like that, that you would just expect if the two characters were heterosexual. Because when you come into a scene, if these people are dating each other, they would naturally something.
Oh,
But
I see.
I kept noticing that with a lot of gay characters, a lot of same-sex couples, they would just kind of come in, awkwardly look at each other and not greet each other like you would expect a couple to. So is that just a stupid expectation, or because I just think that it's something that they shied away from, and I think still shy away from to a great degree?
I think it's American television still shying away. I mean, when Modern Family went on the air before 2010, I forgot what year it was, but it was after Queer Eye and after Will and Grace, so there was momentum there, certainly. But the point is, they always kept it and even though Mitchell's character was played by a gay actor, to make a long story tolerable, there were still a couple of rather sanitary PG, rated PG Disney Channel moments where Mitchell and Cameron sat on their couch together with Lily in between them. That it's, we skipped over how they met. We skipped over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Coming out of the closet episodes. We skipped over all that stuff, and that they already had an adopted daughter, and it was okay because she was Asian, and they were doing like this noble, somewhere between politically correct and noble thing of fostering or adopting, a child from a third world or communist country or something. And it was
I thought it was, or they would try to, one thing I noticed that they would, because they did this in the new animated Voltron, they did it in The Walking Dead, they did it in a couple other shows where it would be like, the characters are mad at each other. That's why they don't kiss when they first see each other after a long time. So they just come in. It's like, I can't believe you've been away so long. Yeah, well, I had stuff. So they would just be angry at each other, right? And that was just their kind of way of dancing around, actually greeting each other like a normal couple.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's just something that still gets me about it, because I think they still do it in a lot of circles. But I just feel like if you would have that expectation out of a heterosexual couple, I mean, we're not, it doesn't have to be a big fireworks moment. but you would have that expectation out of a heterosexual couple on TV when the two characters are first coming on the scene.
And my point is not
It's-
everyone
it's-
has the expectation.
It's just weird.
No, that's a good point.
That's all right. Josh, are you back? Nope. He's got a full-on conversation going with somebody.
Are you on mute?
Yo, Finky.
Oh,
Yo.
Josh,
I mean, to be fair, we have been trying to talk to you for the last 10 minutes while you're yelling at us through the chat.
oh, have I been on mute all that time? Is that really
Yes,
the
you
case?
have.
You
my-
had
you
some
have.
really valid and
Oh,
poignant points.
My goodness point. Oh my
You blew
goodness
my
gracious.
mind, man.
I did that. I did
You
that.
blew my
And I
mind.
was
Yo,
talking there.
I didn't
was-
even know. And when you brought up the thing, yo,
Oh my damn.
yo,
Oh my
yo,
Lord. I will
lyrics.
say,
Lyrics.
Rashad,
That was a
Lyrics.
great impersonation of me during the video game.
That was
episode.
awesome. That was pretty good. Real quick, Rashawn, major geek points for bringing up Caprica. That's just big thumbs up all around because like that's deep geek going on right there. Did want to give a quick shout out in the sci-fi genre and just advancing what your point, Rashawn, of just making people and as much a part of their character. Also, I've talked about it before. The Expanse, Angus, toughest motherfucker on the entire show. Absolutely can physically beat or shoot anyone in that. Also, just so happens to be bi, pan, whatever the proper expression is. Like does just and he doesn't makes no apologies, it just is what it is, man. Just he'll go with and have a good time every once in a while, get drunk and do whatever when they're on shore leave, and that's just that, and no one's gonna talk sideways, look sideways, or even comment on it, right? Just built into his character. So
Yeah, when you have to explain it, that's really what I'm talking about.
no, that's it. It just is what it is. There's a couple of winks and nods and what have you, but so you're understanding. But other than that, yeah, just as a part of the tapestry there. So I'm glad that I'm off mute now, but I can help us.
Welcome back.
I know it's so good to be back there and all that, but also in the
dropping
good
jewels,
to be back,
Josh.
in
Dropping
the,
jewels.
dropping knowledge bombs, logic
Your
bombs.
mic
here.
caught COVID.
Certainly not. Yes, definitely. We're going to blame the COVID brand that. But speaking of that and being part of everything, we're so glad to have you here, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Thank you for suffering us.
Thank you for indulging me for a couple of hours. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed getting to know you last session on social media, and this was been another enlightening conversation. I'm really humbled to be brought back. So thank you for you gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Loving having you here. Get any big plans for the rest of the week? We record this on a Monday, usually release it on a Tuesday now. So anything going on for you there, Michael?
Yes, my chiropractor and my physical therapist share the same office suite, and they have medically cleared me to not just go to the gym, which I've been doing for a few weeks now, but also to lift weights. So
Get
All the
swole, baby.
So I tell the trainers on this podcast that I, in about an hour, will be at a certain place that rhymes with Litness, and I will be might be your competitor. So I'm like, I'll just tone that down. I will be toned.
Sweet, dude.
Power
Oh,
to you,
shit.
man. Pick stuff up and put
Absolutely.
it down. Let's go.
That's
And then-
it, baby. Reps for Jesus.
Well, I do scream his name out when I drop a weight. So yeah.
We all do.
That's what we should. All right.
Mike, don't feel bad. My wife is a devout Catholic, not as devout as Greg, but devout. And when we got married, she dropped a ring and yelled Jesus in front of her, the priest, and all of God and our guests. And the funny part is the priest was laughing. He thought it was hilarious. My mother-in-law, not so much.
That's her daughter. So yeah, it's all
Took
good.
her like a half hour to break that face because she had the pursed lips for like a good half hour. She was
those
ooh,
purse
she,
lips.
she was not here for it.
Oh,
Not her girl. In the
Uh-oh.
Lord's name in church. Mm-mm.
Uh-oh. Rajan, what's you got going on for the rest of the week? What you gonna be thinking about?
I've always had a bad habit of picking off scabs, so I'm just going to go right to it and point out not everyone, but a good amount of us were upset at the end of Star Wars Episode 9. Why? Because not the story, it's because some weird random kiss. It's not always expected.
There we go. All right. We're gonna go to Rise of Skywalker, the one I have the hardest time defending. I mean, because we know Greg's upset always with Star Wars, and we know.
Listen, anyone who wants to approach you and say Phantom Menace is where the good stuff starts, you go ahead and take your conversation wherever you want to, but you don't have to rank it.
In the end, it is still easier than episode 9. Even I admit that. And I didn't even hate the sequel trilogies, but episode 9 is still the one that's like, ooh, JJ, you're not helping me.
Episode 9 is MTV News. Phantom Menace is C-SPAN 2.
And of course, that brings me over to the Star Child, who's of course bitching about Obi-Wan because nothing's good enough for the Star Child when it comes to Star Wars anyway. So
you want me to get on his side now? Don't get me started.
Boy, here we go. No fun to be had. Star Child, what do you got going on for the rest of the week other than waiting for Obi-Wan to come out so you can shit on it?
I'm not watching it. I was serious. Yeah, okay. I wasn't kidding. I'm not watching it. No fucking way. Yeah, it's just gonna be some relaxing, man. I'm in full summer swing. We've got Juneteenth things happening all over Dorchester. We're gonna check out some of that too. Actually, yeah, because today someone was blasting Prince and it wasn't me. So good day.
Whoa! I didn't.
And
think
we're
that
gonna go away. Hopefully soon. Hopefully we're gonna make a plan for a trip too. So I'm in full summer swing. Thank you for asking.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad. I thought that was like a official, at least some kind of decree in Boston city limits that at least dissent has to start with the Prince at some point when it comes down to it. I think he at least has to kick it off. I wouldn't say you're the only one allowed to play, especially in Dorchester, kid. But figured that's got to be the way of it.
That's the other Dorchester. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna try and continue to kick the COVID brain fog, but I can say, Mike, good on you for getting out there and working out. Not that I'm one of these. Also, I have my vaccines, and I took it easy that last week and paid attention to doctor's orders and all those good things, and also take medicines when I get sick too. Just saying, keeping yourself healthy doesn't hurt. Let's also do that too. That's all good. But
scene.
Yeah, I'm not what I'm seeing out there, the jujitsu bro that will cure every disease, including cancer, and everything else going under the sun. And that's all you need to do. But going out and take care of yourself, that's okay too. Get that me time in there that helps you be healthy and better for other people. So good on you, Mike, for getting out there and doing that. Stay safe, do all those wonderful things. While you're out there staying safe, Steam people, shoot on over to Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Give us those rate and reviews. Help us bring us up in the ratings. Help us get pushed on the algorithm. Check us out. We've gotten a nice little community going on the Steam Gentleman podcast on Facebook. And Do You Even Steam, bro? Been seeing a lot of you out there, a lot of you wonderful Steam people out there liking our memes and pics going on from out there on Instagram, and the Steam G's on the Twitter. I guess I'm gonna have to learn how to tweet and the Twitter and all that stuff. I get in enough trouble with social media, but maybe I can use this health in a healthy way. That's a subject for another time. But Mike, thank you so much again for coming out and being our guide here through Pride Month. We really appreciate it.
The three of you put the gentleman in the Steam Gentleman. So once again, I appreciate it and hope to do this again very soon. Take care.
All right. Fantastic. We look forward to having
all
you
aces, Mike.
Absolutely. All good on our part. All right. Well, in the meantime, this is Josh the Birdman telling you to keep that heat up and keep your head of steam on.